But there is nothing terrible about our next guest, who is prolific, covers the Miami Heat at such a high level for 5 Reasons Sports. Brady Hawk joins us here as he does every Tuesday. Brady, good afternoon to you, sir. And obviously, I know you are a king when it comes to basketball coverage. Are you a football fan as well? Are you excited for the NFL this weekend?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm more of a basketball guy, 100%, but football, of course. I like watching it. I'm not more of a covering it, but I like watching it. I like seeing the Dolphins do good. So we'll see what happens. And obviously, fantasy football is always a fun time of year.
How many leagues you do?
Always one. I
Oh,
love
okay.
because
Good.
then
Good man.
you have that a thing where you have a guy you're facing and you have him on your team, and you're rooting against him and for him. Like I just want one team. You have your guys. And you kind of just go forward.
Fair enough, man. Yeah, honestly, there's some years when I do just one league, and it's kind of enjoyable because you put your heart and soul into it. But then if your team sucks, it's kind of disappointing because you don't have like other teams to
Right.
focus on. But then at the same time, some years I'll do like 7 leagues, and then I can't focus on any of them, and I end up
Right.
sucking in all of them. So you probably have the right approach. And of course, Brady Hawk is always very popular when he joins us. As Ray points out, Brady Hawk is in the house. Brady Hawk 305 on Twitter. So, Brady, last time we talked, the Heat had, used one of their two-way spots. Are we still waiting on the other two-way? What's going to happen there?
Yeah, I think we know what position they're going after. Like, it feels like it's pretty much a lock. They got Marcus Garrett. Obviously, DeJon Jarreau went in another direction. He went to Indiana. He was the second best player on that team. It seemed like he was going to be a two-way guy, but looking at it in hindsight, it probably wasn't the worst thing in the world for him to go over there, because do you want both of your two ways being guys that basically do the same thing? Two defensive guards, limited offensively, aren't great shooters. It was like they were going to be forced into it, but it wasn't the best possibility. Now, they signed Omer Yurtseven into a regular contract. I don't think it's necessary to go for a big. Like, it just feels like their front court is just so heavy with free agency pickups. With obviously they're hoping KZ Okpala can become something in the future, but obviously there's some questions there. The position they're going after is a scoring wing. Like, it just seems like that's the only way they go. If guys go out, two ways are going to be used, because if you look at the bottom of the roster, Udonis Haslem isn't jumping in anytime soon. KZ Okpala is just, like I mentioned, you don't really know what's going to happen there. So if guys go down, you're going to want a scoring wing to kind of throw in there. Hopefully he can just be a bucket getter. And top of the list, I think, for Miami, looking at their summer league, they can look around the league if they want to, try to grab somebody that they like. But DJ Stewart is probably at the top of that list, just a guy who can just score at all 3 levels, can get to the rim as a tight handle. Not a great defender, but he can just kind of do things that you need if you're trying to use a plug-and-play guy. And the other guy's RJ Nembhard, who's more, I think, complete at this stage. And honestly, I think most teams are looking for upside. The Heat aren't doing that, even if they are trying to get a good player. It's always about win now. They're trying to get guys that they can throw in. So RJ Nembhard might be a little bit more of a possibility than DJ Stewart. But we'll kind of find out. I think it's going to be between those two guys if they don't go outside the board. But it does seem like it's for sure that they're going after a score.
I know our CEO, Ethan Skolnick at 5 Reasons, he's actually told me the last time I had him on that he hopes we actually see more than like the token 1 appearance, 3 minutes from Udonis Haslem. Like, he wouldn't mind seeing UD get utilized a little more. Do you think that might be in the cards? Because I think the playbook just on how Spo uses UD has been out the last few years, that he's just going to be on the team for his moral support. We'll get him in for, 1 appearance just so he can count it as a season on record. Or could we see more this year?
Yeah, I think if there was a year for it to happen, I think it was last year. If you just look at the roster, they had a lot of backcourt depth. Probably too much backcourt depth if you're thinking about the players they had that kind of reiterated among like offensive skill. This year, like I said before, they have a bunch of front court guys. You got Yurtseven you're going to throw in if guys get hurt. You have Dedmon, you have Bam. Obviously, Morris and Tucker you picked up. KZ, like I mentioned, could be a possibility. It just seems like there's just so many people there in the front court spots that I don't think they're going to be forced into using Haslem. If they have to, like at worst case scenario, like it happened last year, there was 8 available players because of COVID and contact tracing. Doesn't seem like that's going to be much of an issue this year, if they're vaccinated and the new rules and everything. But Udonis Haslem, it just seems like, is going to be taking up a role, even if some fans may not like it. He's going to be there. He's going to be on the bench. He's going to be talking to guys when they come off the floor. I just can't really see him getting, a bunch of minutes. I think maybe he may have an ejection at some point in the season just to throw him in there, spark something against Philadelphia or probably LA now because they have Dwight Howard.
Yeah.
Throw him in there against Dwight. So I think that's going to be his only role. I just can't really see at this point just with the front court depth.
Now, I want to go a little bit deeper on KZ Okpala because he had a very uninspiring summer league, and I get frustrated with the guy. But you can break this down better from a basketball standpoint. How far away is he? And do you have hope that Okpala can actually still become a serviceable rotation guy for Spo?
Yeah, it feels like it's ways away, to be honest. Like it's just when you watch him play, he has a lot of great defensive tendencies, as we've mentioned. He can run baseline to baseline and press you, as Miami likes. They like guys that are up in your grill. Uh, he's not great team defensively. Like I feel like he needs to improve in that area, kind of knowing where to stand. I think that comes with minutes. But obviously, defense is not the question; it's offense. And I just don't see a part of his game that shows you a flash of where he can be effective. The ultimate best case scenario for KZ Okpala is to just nonstop shoot threes in the offseason. Like I just feel like that's his only role. If he can become a 3-and-D player, he can have a role in the rotation. Like there's no question about that. At this point, he's tried to be an attacker, and there's no way for him really to be that. When he puts the ball on the floor, he can get to the rim with some elbows thrown around, and then he's not a great finisher. So it just doesn't seem possible in that area. Just the inconsistency from three makes you think it's not possible to be a 3-and-D guy. But that's best case scenario. That's the only thing I can really see. So if he works on the three and he can at least hit it at a decent clip, I think it's a guy you can plug and play, throw in there, just see what happens. But rotational, it just feels like it is far away.
Brady Hawk is with us here on Donno Daily on 5R Live on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. Something that was making headlines yesterday was the Heat picking up the option 22-23 for us. For Tyler Hero. I don't know why that name escaped me. That's an odd one. But that was expected, right? Is there anything surprising about the Heat picking up that option?
No, I think the intriguing thing that they were like the first team to do it out of all the guys in that draft class. No, that was not surprising. I just feel like it's also a confidence thing. I think looking at the basketball side of things, they're going to lock him up either way because even if he doesn't perform at the highest level, which I don't think they're expecting, he's their best asset. Even though people don't like talking about their guys as assets, he is their best asset. He's probably one of their only assets at this stage. If you're not cutting Duncan Robinson on the new contract. But it's a confidence thing. I think they got to try to get Tyler Hero rolling early. If we talk about his role off the bench early on in the season, he's going to have something that's pretty simple. It's going to be just score the ball off the bench and don't think about it too much. Like it's got to be simple. Like Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, it's a lot of inexperienced guys on that bench that he's going to have the ball in his hands a ton, that he's going to have to do some things. And obviously later in the season, as it was reported, on 5 on the floor, Victor Oladipo could be returning by possibly December. When you go to look at that bench, Victor Oladipo and Tyler Hero off the bench, that's a deadly backup backcourt on paper. Like if you're looking at it, if you could find a pairing for Tyler Hero, Oladipo is probably that guy. He's a defensive guy. You kind of plug the things he doesn't really do: drive to the ball, shot creation, defend. That's the ultimate thing you want from the bench guy. So I think they're preparing Hero to be a very positive player this year. He's going to have a featured role. Obviously, I don't want to just say like it's going to be Victor Oladipo and Hero at all times. There's going to be staggering. He's going to get minutes with Jimmy. He's going to get minutes with Bam. Obviously, Kyle Lowry. He's going to have a role it's going to come down to, like I've said before, catch and shoot. That was a bad area of his game last season that kind of fell off. If he can bring that back, then I think he'll be totally fine and they can move forward.
Now you threw out the word with Hero, asset, and he is an asset. Your best prediction. Put on your tinfoil hat or your predicting hat. In 2023, is he still going to be a member of the Miami Heat, or might he have been dealt by then?
If I had to just predict right now, I would probably say he's still here. Like I think if we're predicting, my prediction is that he's going to have a really good year where he's a simple role off the bench, 6-man type role that's what this team needs. Like if you're flipping him for a Bradley Beal that comes available, obviously you do it. I just don't see that as a possibility. But for what's out there and what you're getting back, if you were to deal him, I just don't think there's many guys that could do what he does if you're predicting forward to what the next step he's going to take. Like, I feel like I'm reiterating, but he can go off the bench and really take advantage of what he's given this year. Like, if he can do that and just score the ball at a high level, take advantage of the sets that he's being placed in, because he has another thing is he's going to be running with Dwayne Dedmon a lot, which means he's going to have to slow down a bit. When he plays with Bam, it's the lob pass. He's trying to think a lot faster, doing things at a normal speed that most young guys do. Playing with Dwayne Dedmon, Markieff Morris, these guys are going to force him to slow down a bit, and I think that's beneficial as well. It's the reason I think they kind of went that route with the veteran moves to try to benefit him. So we'll kind of see what happens. I think he's gonna be beneficial from there, but I would say 2023, if I'm predicting forward, he would probably still be on the roster.
Joined here by Brady Hawk on Donno Daily. Chris Bosh is going into the Basketball Hall of Fame this weekend. Now, I asked the same question to Alana Tahauer yesterday. I'm curious as to your take. Is it just me, Brady, or does Chris Bosh seem like he's a lot more appreciated now, not only by Heat fans, but by everybody, than he was during the Big Three era? And you grew up on that Big Three era, Brady. I can remember a lot of bitching and moaning about Bosh being soft and not being aggressive enough because people didn't understand his role, quite frankly. They didn't understand floor spacing, but I feel like people have come to understand it now. So is it like the evolution of the league? There's a lot more Chris Bosh types out there, but do you agree he's more appreciated in 2021 than he was in 2012?
Yeah, I think we've seen these big three, big four teams get put together over the years, and it's not easy to be the sacrifice. Like, we've seen it not work out so many times that I feel like the more and more you see it, you just kind of respect what Chris Bosh did and taking that step back even at the prime of his career. I feel like another thing is they're just kind of respecting what he did in hindsight because of the way he kind of went out, that he would have been a lot more respected if he would have went on and didn't have the issues that he did with the blood clots, because he had some years in him that he was still going to be an effective player on this Heat team. Like, and I think that's the one question a lot of people have: what would have happened if none of that occurred? Where would this team be right now? It probably could have went another direction. But I think we would be looking at Chris Bosh at even a higher level than we are if that never occurred, because he would be the second option on that team, and you got to see a different level of Chris Bosh. You got to see him the first option in Toronto, the third option in Miami, and then obviously that next era was going to be him as the second option. I feel like that really would have propelled his legacy in a certain degree, but it definitely does feel that way. I think moving on past a couple of years, realizing what he did, I think there's a lot more respect from just nationally. So it definitely is positive that he's getting inducted at this point.
What are you working on this week, Brady? You're always very active on the website. What can people expect from you next?
Yeah, I just did. Latest one is talking about 5 different lineups that Miami could use. Just kind of get creative. I think we're going to see a lot of that. Just talking about, we know the starting lineup, we know the closing lineup, we know the bench lineup. Like, I think there's going to be creative lineups thrown in there this season that Eric Spoelstra is going to have fun with. So I'm just kind of expanding those kind of points of the creativeness that they're going to use.
I love it. Really good stuff as always here from Brady Hawk. Brady, thank you so much, my friend. We'll talk to you next Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.